Ben Jonson, 1572 to 1637. Benjamin Jonson was an English playwright and poet whose artistry exerted a lasting effect upon English poetry and stage comedy. He worked as a frequent like his father in 1660. Jonson received a yearly pension of 100 marks, leading some to identify him as England's first poet laureate. He served as a judge in the Flanders Law Countries, became an actor and playwright at Law Countries in 1597. As an actor, Jonson was a protagonist, Hieronymo, in the play The Spanish Tragedy by Thomas Kyd, the first living tragedy in English literature. He was imprisoned for writing the satirical play The Ashley of Plagues 1597. He killed a fellow actor, Gabriel Spencer, in duel, escaped the executions with case written in 1602. In 1604, he was imprisoned a third time for his work with John Marston and George Chapman's on Eastward Ho. He wrote masques for private performance in King James Court, Epigram and Forced at the Poetic Collections by Ben Jonson. He quarreled bitterly with Enico John, his stage designer, and also quarreled with Marston and Checker in War of the Theatres. Every man in his humor made him a celebrity. He was a literary dictator at the Marmite Tavern. He was buried in Westminster Abbey with the epitaph, "O rare Ben Jonson." The works of Jonson appeared in folio format in 1616. Arnold and Ben Jonson. Arnold wrote a poem on Jonson entitled "On Ode to Ben Jonson." It starts with, "Hey Ben, how or when shall we thee guest meet at those lyric beasts mad at the sun, the talk, the triple time?" Arnold also wrote a book, The English Poets, Ben Jonson to Dryden. Alexander Pope set Jonson for critical learning into work by 1597. He was writing for Philip Hanslove's satirical campaign in the same year. Hanslow asked Ben to finish Thomas Nash's The Ashley of Dogs, and Jonson was jailed for it. Like Trent, he revolted against the artistic convention of the age. He employed the humanist ideal of close imitation of classics. The third collections of poetry and ode appeared posthumously in the 1640 edition of his works. Jonson, in his Every Man Out of His Humor, described two kinds of humors, true humor and adapted humor. Dryden called the latter plays of Jonson as dotage, as they were not well received. Dryden on Jonson. If I would compare him with Shakespeare, I must acknowledge him the most correct poet, but Shakespeare the greater wit. Shakespeare was the Homer, or the father of our dramatic poets. Jonson was the Virgil, the pattern of elaborate writing. I admire him, but I love Shakespeare, or essay of dramatic voice. T.S. Eliot on Ben Jonson. The reputation of Jonson has been of the most deadly kind that can't be compelled upon the memory of great poet. Jonson failed as a tragic dramatist. Jonson is the legitimate heir of Marlowe. Jonson's work is of the subject carefully, avoiding the world superficial. Jonson behaved as the great creative mind that he was. He created his own world, a world from which his followers, as well as the dramatists, who were trying to do something wholly different, are excluded. It is a technique of characterization used by Ben Jonson. In this technique, an individual is marked by one characteristic, distortion or eccentricity based on one of the four humors. Blood or sanguine, sociable and pleasure-seeking, fleeting, relaxed and quiet, coiled or yellow paper, ambitious and leader-like, melancholy or black-bite, introverted and thoughtful. Important work of Ben Jonson. Every Man in His Humor, 1598. Every Man Out of His Humor, 1599. Cynthia Rivers, 1600. The Poet Esther, 1601. A Full of Vivacity and Fun. Wild the Fox, 1605. Epiphany of the Silent Woman, 1609. The Alchemist, 1610. Pathology, far less powerful. The Devil is an Ash. The Stable of News. The Tale of a Joke. Catline, Kiss and Fraxy, Tragedy. Sejanus Kiss Fall, Tragedy. Thank you.